As a leader of a company or a day at Disneyland or whatever, a shoot, you've got to say, I got to value and honor everyone there and give them what they need to be successful. That's my job as a leader, to give everyone what they need in their language, the things that will make them successful. And if I do that, then I'm a better leader, or you're a better wife, better husband, a better teacher, better friend. If we can just understand what that is and translate it for what they need.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Passages TV podcast. My name is Grace Ann Baker, and I'm here with my co-host, Nigo Belardi, and we are so excited for today's podcast. We have a creative genius with us here today. He is somebody that is near and dear to both of our hearts. He is the creative director at Turning Point. He's our boss, and he is family. And so we're so excited to have you here with us today. Paul, can you start us off by giving us a little bit about you, your journey, where you were, and where you are?
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to sit and chat. Two of my favorite people to sit around and talk with, and I'm just privileged to be here. I am a creative director at Turning Point. I'd never imagined this is what I'd be doing, but when I look back on my life, it's very clear to me this is what I should be doing. I was raised in Tucson, Arizona, one of 5 kids, great childhood. My dad's a pastor. Through my whole life, I really was attracted to music and theater and some sports, and never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. Grew up and decided the only thing else I wanted to do outside of ministry was production. So I went to LA for a little while and off to New York, and I think God had to bring me home, and he did bring me home. It's a little bit of a journey away from him and then back to him. And before I knew it, I was involved with church work, and now I'm working with Dr. Jeremiah. And my favorite part of my job is working with the team and seeing them grow in leadership and seeing their natural gifts come out. And I love the creative stuff as well. And I'm privileged to do films and television and all sorts of interesting creative things. But it's the people that makes my job really special to me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, we are here today because you have created something called the Adventure Styles, and it kind of helps you get to know everybody's personality, and kind of know how to work with them. And you've utilized it all throughout Turning Point. I know it's personally helped me in my personal life and my work life, and I'm sure it's helped you too, Nico. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what the Adventure Styles are and why you created them?
So, I don't know about you, but I've always was very interested in how people work, and more importantly, how I worked. And I told you a little bit about my journey. A big part of my journey was trying to figure out who I was. So like everyone else, I took a lot of tests, and I went to a lot of seminars. The temperament tests, the Myers-Briggs tests, DISC, iSearch. I even went to one seminar where your personality were like animals, like dogs. Some were golden retriever, some was a collie. I think I was a Shih Tzu. I think that's what I'm like. If I'm a Shih Tzu,
I've definitely heard about this. Yeah.
Right. If I'm a Shih Tzu, I'm in the wrong conference. So through the years, I just realized that no matter where you come from, no matter what your parents are, no matter if you're right brain, left brain, we all at heart are in search of something. And it could be love, it could be career, it could be purpose. It could be just a day off, but at heart, we're all just pursuing something. At heart, we're all adventurers. So I created the Adventure Styles. It just seemed like it came to me, that God brought it to me. It helped me understand that though we're all on the same journey, we approach it differently. And when I learned that I approach something differently than my dad or my mom or my friends or my coworkers, I could not only understand better what I'm doing and how to use those strengths and quell those weaknesses, but I could also understand how you think and maybe motivate you and inspire you in your own language. Because sometimes, even though we all maybe speak English or another language, we're not speaking the same language. And that was how that all came to me, because I wanted to be better at understanding others and understanding myself, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's 4 different adventure styles. There's the Explorer, the Traveler, the Navigator, and my personal favorite, the Trailblazer.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's actually really interesting because all 3 of us sitting here are different. And so we all have different perspectives of life, different ways that we approach things. Could you give us a little overview for the audience of what each of those are and how they approach life?
So I call it the adventure styles, again, because we're all on an adventure. So think of us all being on an adventure. There's someone who's usually thinking, I wonder where we could go. What if? Why not? How come? Searching. They're the searcher. They're always looking actually past here to there. Sometimes that's annoying, right? Because you just want them to be focused. There's always something out there. They're a question mark. I call those people explorers. And if you go on an adventure, the first thing that you usually start with is someone who's a vision of where we're going and what we're doing. So that's the explorer. They are searchers at heart. They're philosophically based. Again, what if, why not, how come? And that's the explorer. And with each one of these, there's 24 indications of who you are. So for them, their life purpose is all about ideals, and out of all 4 of them, they want meaning. And as my mom used to say to me, Paul, as meaningful as everything is, not everything is that meaningful.
Yeah.
For them, they infuse everything with meaning. That's the explorer. They see what's not here and want to go there. In fact, that's sometimes their trouble. They sometimes live in the future or in the past, but have a hard time living in the present. So that's the explorer. That's how we start our adventure. Then the trailblazer, I don't know if you know what a trailblazer.
I don't know.
But a trailblazer says, enough of the talking. They take the machete out and start cutting down the trees. We're going to get there. Wherever we're going, we want to get there. They're powerful pursuit. They're not the searcher, they're the conqueror. They want to win, and that's their goal. They love that feeling, and any challenge to them is just an opportunity to win and to be a winner. So they love that. So the trailblazer takes us from point A to point D, skipping B and C. They go right there to that point because that's where they want to go. And trailblazers are amazing because they get things done. I work for a trailblazer. It's been the best thing for me as an explorer to work with someone who says, hey, if that's your idea, let's do it. And then I'm scared that he said, yes, let's do it. I'm like, oh, wait, you sure? He's
Hold
like,
on.
yeah, let's go for it. Hold on, right. So then the next part is once we get there, wherever we're going on this adventure, a navigator, I don't know if we know any of those in the group.
Nope.
A navigator says, hey, this is great, but now the dust is flying and all this debris is all over the place. Can we all just kind of get organized? And they're not the searcher or the conqueror, they're the stabilizer. Navigators have a way of stabilizing life. They love information and details. They want to know what's going on, right? They like to have a plan. Not a purposeful pursuit always, it can be. Not a powerful pursuit, but a planned pursuit. They love a list. They want a plan. It doesn't have to be their plan as long as there is a plan.
Right.
And they stabilize. Thank God for navigators, because I would dare say we would not have sewers, because we wouldn't think about it, right? They would, let's get organized. We wouldn't have electricity. I mean, I believe they're the ones that slow things down and stabilize and get things organized for us. And so that's super important. And now that we have seen the vision, gotten to our destination, and organized it, now the last one, the traveler, says, hey, can we just slow down and have a little fun and have some community here? So the last one is a traveler. The traveler is experience-based, and they're a playful pursuit. And though they could be an engineer or an astronaut or a prisoner or a rock star or whatever, they approach everything they do with the idea of, can we make this interesting and fun? Can we be a team? Can we get matching t-shirts? I'll bring muffins. Is there candy involved? It's not about the food or really about what we're doing. It's about the experience. Mm-hmm. So an adventure starts from when you see it to conquering it, organizing it, and then having some community around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating to me. I mean, I noticed I was interested in psychology around when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And so similar to you, I started taking personality tests because I wanted to understand myself better. I wanted to understand my family better and those around me. But none of those, Adventure Styles is so different because I feel like it doesn't put you in a box. a lot of the personality tests out there can sort of limit you and put you in a box and say, this is how you are, this is how you experience life. But Adventure Styles has a different angle because it just informs you and educates you on some behavior patterns that these personalities have. And it also just helps you understand others and learn how to communicate with others better. At least I've noticed that for myself, especially in the workplace and having to work with so many different people with all different personalities, how to communicate more effectively and efficiently, so that people can receive that communication the best that they can.
Right.
And so I love that about Adventure Styles. I'm curious, at what point in your life did this idea like come about? Was it when you were in college in New York City? Was it like something that was going on in your life where you decided I need to come up with something that makes sense to me, and then this is how it got created? Or
Right. Always fascinated with the same thing, understanding people. I will tell you, it really happened to me in the biggest search of my life, because I was in ministry, I was married, my wife and I lost a son, and then that led to a divorce. So everything that I had always known and really had a concrete anchor in was now gone. And I was by myself, didn't have a job, everything just disappeared because I was working at a church at the time. So it was about me digging deep into my own soul and finding out, like, okay, how do I relate to God? And here's the key that helped me. I wanted to know who I was. Who am I? That's a question everyone asks. The bigger question is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because I don't think you ever really understand completely who you are. You know who you are in Christ. You know who you are to your spouse or to your family. But when I started realizing that my life fell apart and I was doing things that was not right with me, like connection is big to explorers. I lost all my connection. The church I worked in was gone. My wife, the family that I had planned, everything I knew was gone. So I was disconnected. So then I moved to Los Angeles, right back where I came from when I production, and I experienced all these things. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is wrong with me? And then when it all trailed back, I realized I feel disconnected. So what was I doing? I was trying to find connection in other ways, and not always in a way that God wanted me to find connection in. That's what started it. I realized I don't know who I am and why I'm doing this. And I may not ever know who I am, but I can look about what I'm doing. I get it. I want connection. Now, I've looked at my sister or a brother or someone else. They're not even interested in that. They're all interested in getting some order or getting back on top. For me, that's where it all started. And that's how all of a sudden it just seemed like one summer, after I actually came to San Diego, one summer it just seemed like it all just flooded in. I just asked God, like, show me something. There must be a purpose in all this tragedy I can walk away from, instead of just being this wounded person for the rest of my life. I don't want to be this person.
Yeah.
So I think when I understood me, I started realizing, well, good, this is awesome, but this is not you, and this is not you. So, like, who are they? So based on their approach and how they behave, that's how it all started for me.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating to reflect on, because now you have Adventure Styles, and I know you use this in the workplace as a leader to communicate to your employees. And like Grace Ann mentioned in the beginning, it's affected all of us in this room. And I know you offer consultations and support to other organizations, and you incorporate Adventure Styles into some of the leadership training. So it's really cool to see how God used some of the disconnection that you were experiencing in your life, some of the brokenness that you were going through, to now have this personality thing developed, and you're able to use that to help so many others. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, God's a master, of course, at making, things beautiful out of things that were broken. And when you understand that, your broken times in life, you don't panic about it, because if you're willing, and if you allow God to do it, He'll make something beautiful out of that.
Well, I want to get into the weeds a little more about Adventure Styles. Right. You gave a great explanation to all the 4 different types. Now I know that there's different expressions.
Yes.
It can be a high end and a low end. Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Sure. I believe there's a high end expression of each personality type and a low end. Some might call it more outgoing and more introverted, or extroverted and introverted. Some might call it more assertive, and some might call it more passive. Whatever you call it, there's usually a high end and low end. For instance, let's take a traveler. A low end is all about consensus. They want consensus. If you know a traveler or you're a traveler, you just want peace. You want to make everybody happy. You don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Even if you don't always get what you want, you're like, I'd rather have everyone have a good time. So a low end is all about consensus, a mellow, more of an easygoing traveler. A high end is all about approval, which is consensus on steroids. Approval is, I'm going to create the consensus.
Yeah.
Where consensus, I'm just going to let it go. The high end person feels responsible, both wanting fun. The low end feeling like, I want fun. My way of having fun is making everybody happy and not causing any waves. The high end is, I'm going to make everybody happy because I'm going to be the fun and I'm going to create it and I want everyone to join me. That's the difference. Let's go to Trailblazer. So for a Trailblazer, the low end is all about, they're both about achievement. The low end is, I just want to do my best. So they're not interested in, like, they're competing, but if their competition is really themselves. A high end is, I want to be the best. And that's that different level you see, and you will see that immediately. Navigator, the low end is all about order. They just want order. I want a list, and I want order just because I want things to go well. I don't care if it's your plan or my plan, I just want order. High end is, I want control. I want to schedule the order. I want to schedule the list. I want to, be the one who makes the decision. I like things this way. A funny story. One time I was at a conference and speaking, and I have people get up and they talk sometimes, and they'll share the microphone. And she said, I just realized I'm a high-end navigator, and everybody clapped. And she goes, don't clap, because let me tell you my story. She said, I have 3 sons and 3 daughter-in-laws, and I invite them over for Thanksgiving every year, and it's gotten weird because they don't bring the right stuff. And even if I say, hey, bring a broccoli salad, they don't bring it like I like it, and they don't fix the mashed potatoes like I like it. So she said, one year I thought, I'll do something really great. I'll send them an invitation and just be really nice. Say, hey, please come to my house. It'll be great. Here's what you bring. And behind the invitation was a 3x5 card of the recipe she wanted them to fix.
Nice.
That is a high end. That's someone who not only wants to...
Here's how I want you to do it.
Here's how I want to do it. You're right. Now let's go to Explorer. Explorer is a low end. They just want to belong. They want to find meaning in everything. They have belief as a core. High end's all about change. And the reason why they're all about change is because they believe they're idealistic. So they believe that anything out there that's wrong, it should be better. Again, here's that question mark and that vision of what could be one day. So that's the difference between high ends and low ends, basically how they express who they are. Low ends can be passive, and high ends can be super assertive. The goal is not to be passive or assertive. The goal is to move to the middle and be expressive. So when it is something that you should say, you do say it. But when it's not, you don't say it. Sometimes you turn your light up, and then sometimes you turn your light down. Assertives sometimes always have their light up, and they always have something to say. And passives sometimes never have anything to say, and their light's always turned off. And then later they're like, why don't I have any significance, and why does everyone not dislike me? Mm-hmm. The goal is to be expressive and land in the middle. Mm.
After reviewing some of the documents you put together about this, I read that you believe people are born with their adventure style. I'm also curious in how much do external factors affect your adventure style, like your upbringing, your family, different experiences? Because for me personally, I can be born a navigator, but I definitely, like you mentioned, my parents, my mom's a trailblazer, my dad's a traveler. Like, how does that affect who you are and your pursuit pattern?
Well, it's interesting, your pursuit pattern, because you are affected by your surroundings. It doesn't change you, but it affects you. It molds you. Any experience we have, it affects us. No matter where I've taught adventure styles, whether it's United States or other countries, different, they all land in the same 4 categories. But another thing I've noticed is, and part of it was sometimes people take like a strength finders test, and they usually say, I understand the first 2, I really get those. Mm-hmm. The last 3, I was really surprised. I usually find that's not you, that's usually your influence. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I'm an explorer. I had a mother who was an explorer. So even though I was the only explorer child, all of my siblings are very philosophical because my mom was philosophical. But they can't stay there very long without getting a little bored. I'll start talking about, well, what about life? And let's light a candle and play some music and talk. And they're like, after about half an hour, they're like, okay, please stop, enough. Like, they all are pretty philosophical, but there's no one who wants to live there. My dad was a navigator. All of us kids are very navigational. And at work, you probably notice I'm super organized. Thank God for my dad. That is not normal for an explorer. Because we're a jack of all trades, a master of none if we're not careful. Because we love everything. We want to do everything. We want to believe everything. We want to save the whales. We want to save the wolves. We want to save people. We want to save the children. And after a while, we can be so distracted that we don't get anything done. I had a dad. We're always on time. We get things done. If you start something, you're going to finish it. If you want to go out for baseball, I don't care how many allergies you have and whatever you're doing, you're going to finish the season. That helped me. I only have one sister who's a navigator. But all 5 of us are super navigational. You, good or bad, your parents do affect you. So that's part of it. Sometimes culture. There are some cultures in the world that tend to be a little bit more relaxed or a little bit more organized and orderly. Some cultures feel like their kids should be more navigational. Some cultures like, hey, who cares? Everybody just chill out. You go to the islands and it's like, hang loose. That does permeate you, but it doesn't change who you are. So I think there are like 4 or 5 influences in our life, but it doesn't change who you are. It just affects. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes parents don't appreciate the adventure styles of their kids, especially if they're different. So of all the 4 adventure styles, which one do you think a parent would have a harder time for their girl to be?
Trailblazer.
Trailblazer. Because
Speaking from
why?
experience.
Why?
Well, many reasons. One, I'm very independent, and parents don't really like that when your little girl is independent and don't necessarily need them. Like, I love them, and I want their help, and I need their help, but I can figure anything out without them. And I know as a motherly role, they don't necessarily like that. I don't have a lot of emotion as a trailblazer, and I don't think about people's feelings a lot. And I'm just kind of A to D. I skip BC, like you said earlier. And so that I've had to navigate a lot being a trailblazer.
You can't navigate. You're a trailblazer. I'm a navigator.
Well, no, but I've had to navigate that as being a trailblazer. And I mean, you helped me. I was thinking about so many stories getting ready for this. You helped me navigate that. I remember sitting in your office when I was 13, and I was having a really hard time being a trailblazer growing up, just with, butting heads with my parents or butting heads with kids at school because I didn't understand feelings. And so I think those. Well, it's
interesting. Yes, trailblazer, I think, is the hardest one for people to want a girl to be because trailblazer they're conquerors, they're powerful. A lot of people don't want girls to be, strong and confident. A funny story about you, when you were real little, I got a call from your mom. She was frustrated. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, can you help me with my trailblazer daughter? I go, what's wrong? She was like 3 or 4. She goes, she wants to dress herself. And I want to dress her the way I want to. I said, well, just let her dress herself. And she said, I can't let her go out of the house. And I said, well, why? And she said, because her pinks don't match. She's different color pinks. I said, Cammie, can I tell you something? Let her do that. The world will have a way of telling her if her pinks don't match. You don't have to tell her. Let her go find out the hard way. I really think that one day you're going to realize she's going to dress really nice and she's going to look really good. Don't worry about that. But that scares people.
Yeah.
Just the same way for parents to have a son, which one do you think is the hardest one for them to have as a son they might be uncomfortable with?
Navigator?
Explorer.
Nope. Explorer.
Oh.
Because sometimes for boys, you don't want them to be connective. Mm-hmm. Usually explorers are very affectionate, which gets them in trouble. Just ask David in the Bible, who was very much an explorer. Was he a shepherd? Was he a king? Was he a warrior? Yes. Was he this? Was he, did he write poetry? Yes. But he also loved connection, and that's what got him in trouble, because those are the things that can get us in trouble. So for parents actually with kids, sometimes they'll try to stifle a girl who's a trailblazer or a boy who's an explorer because they're afraid they're going to get hurt in the world because they're too sensitive or not sensitive enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I've had to, the last time I went through this, I was in high school because you were helping me, figure some stuff out. there's actually one instance that is ingrained in my brain forever that you helped me out with. I was in ASB, Associated Student Body at school, and we had our prom coming up. And so I was part of the planning process, and they were going through all the details, getting it done, but there was a lag in it. And we were coming up like 3 weeks to prom, and nobody was doing anything. So I jumped in and I just took over. I was like, okay, this needs to get done. Nobody's doing it. And so I took over. I did the flowers. I did the design. I did everything. Well, people did not like that in high school. And so I ended up getting in an argument with this girl in my class because she was, all about the details, all about feeling needed very much, and explore the feeling, the connection.
Right.
And I just kind of took over something that she wanted to do, but she wasn't getting done. And so I remember sitting with you and I was talking with you and I was like, I don't understand why this girl is upset. Like, this needed to get done. I got it done. She should be thanking me.
Right, exactly.
Like, I did her work for her. And then you helped me understand, like, it's not about getting the work done. It's about feeling needed. It's about appreciating it. It's about, feeling that connection. And that's one instance that.
Well, you did the right thing. The other people just don't understand it. So you got to be comfortable knowing that I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'm going to do it with grace and help them understand why I do it and speak like you speak her language. The only reason why I'm doing this is to make this work for all of us. But sometimes we jump in. But I love that about Trailblazers, and I love that about even explorers. They're pioneers. And I always say you can always tell a pioneer because they have arrows in their back. They've gone ahead and then they've been shot from the backside because they're not getting shot in the front because they're way in front of everybody.
Right.
So you just pull the arrows out every once in a while, and then you learn from those and you move on. Right?
Yeah, but it's definitely interesting growing up because I'm the only Trailblazer in my family. My grandfather's a Trailblazer, but I have 2 Traveler parents. My sister's an Explorer, and I believe my 2 brothers are also Travelers.
Mm-hmm. What's Caleb?
He's a Traveler, but he has a Navigator father. So he's very Navigator, has a lot of Navigator tendencies, but his main one is a Traveler.
Right.
So
Being a Traveler in law could be interesting, I guess, huh? You want to be friends with everyone? But it's like, no.
Yeah, he just gets along with everybody. So
But that's it. I find that the gym I go to, it's the gym that one of the law colleges here in town, that's their gym. That's part of the perk of their school. And I find that a lot of Trailblazer lawyers and a lot of travelers, because travelers what they go into, they're wanting to make it all work out. They're not in it for the fight. They're in it for the peace and the win, and that everyone comes to an agreement. So it's just different motivation. They're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, I have been married 2 years, been with Caleb for 5 years. I have never known him to get in an argument or to be upset with anybody or to get mad. If anything, I get mad at him because I'm mad at something and he doesn't get mad with me.
He's trying to move the ball forward to find an answer.
He's like,
that's the motivation.
Don't worry about that. It'll all work
awesome.
itself out. So
Yeah, big
definitely
fan of Caleb.
balances me out there.
Absolutely.
But
I have a weird question. When you were creating adventure styles, did you focus your attention on 4 people? And you were like, my mom's really this, and I've noticed all these things about her. So then you started formulating this. Or my dad's a navigator, and he's always on time, and he wants me to finish things. And so you started making the Navigator. Like, were there people that you were like thinking of?
I think it was like I was this weird kid who was always like sitting in the corner watching people. I always wanted to sit at the adult table, which is another explorer thing. They're old souls. They're kind of strange. Sometimes you're like, I see dead people. They're kind of they're like that third dimension. And I always thought that people landed in different like buckets. That sounds terrible. But then when I finally started figuring out what they were, it wasn't just one person I would think of. It was tons of people that started dropping into these buckets. And I think, strange enough, that you look back at what God calls you to do, it all is a part of that. I believe a lot of my background in writing, being in shows, doing characters, you had to be someone else. How do you be someone else? That's why some characters, some leading men are always the same person. Harrison Ford's always Harrison Ford, whether he's got a hat and a whip or he's trying to save America. He's still Harrison Ford. There's other people who are characters. So maybe that helped me get into different people's worlds and mind. But I didn't have a certain particular, first it was me trying to figure out like, what is wrong with me? Then second of all, these other, I'm not this and I'm not that, but that person's that. and this person, and so is this person. Oh, that must be a thing. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And also Bible characters were another way to see, like, God used all sorts of people, but they're all were different. But for different reasons, he used different people. That helped too.
Are there still things that you learn about adventure styles today? Life is always changing. You meet people here and there. Has it been consistent since the day you've created it, or like today you're still kind of experiencing new things and exploring, different attributes and stuff?
Yes, I do find new things, and it's usually a new application for it. It's usually like something like one time I spoke to a convention of people who sold cars. And so I said, well, how does this work if I'm a salesperson? So I start putting it together and like, oh my goodness, that's exactly like the way you buy a car and the way you and I would buy a car is probably different.
Yeah.
You probably do all your homework ahead of time. You got your stuff. Tell me this car, I want it. It may not even be the right color, but I don't care if it does this and this. If I sell a car to Grace Ann, I'd be saying, hey, this car is only 2 in San Diego, and it may look like this, but it has a chassis of a Ferrari. And you know who drives this car? Taylor Swift. And you're like, okay, I want it.
Yeah.
Right?
Sounds
and
about
then
right.
For me, I would be like, so Paul, tell me, Paul, before we got to look at the cars, tell me, what does your car mean to you? Well, I'd probably say, well, I love music. Well, what else? And I'd start probably like, I like a place where I can, you're like, okay. So it's different ways. So it fit. I have taught to a coaches convention of how to motivate their athletes in 4 different ways. And once they asked me to come, I wanted to share with them adventure styles, but I also wanted to tell them how to use it. So the first thing I did was teach adventure styles to them, and they all identified who they were. Then I said, I want you to go with your coaching team and identify this was football, your offensive team and your starting defense, and I want you to map out each of theirs. And so they did that. And they came back, and then I said, now I want you to map out your coaching, who's on your coaching team. So I remember one guy walking up, and we had this open mic, and he said, so what did you learn? He goes, I learned we're in trouble. I go, why? He goes, every one of my quarterbacks are navigators, and I'm a trailblazer, and I've not given them a playbook or anything, and they need a plan, and that's why we're losing. So that's how I found out new things. I find there's a richness in each person. I like to see how people grow. The goal is not to have anyone really know which one you are. The goal is to be such a good balance that no one can tell. You're organized, you're thoughtful, you're powerful, you're confident, you've got vision, but you also have peace, and you also have joy in the moment. So that's the goal. But I usually find new things. I worked with customer service operators in centers across the country, and how to figure out reveals and tells, which is I'll put that on the download if you want it. Like, the reveals and tells is important. Like, how can I tell? Can I talk a little bit about why I don't test always?
Yes, please.
So the problem with tests are, number one, we don't take them honestly, especially men.
I don't.
No, men don't. Like, yeah, people don't take them honestly, especially guys. Guys take a test and do what they want to. They check off what they want to be.
I do that too.
Yeah, and in marriage, in marriage conferences that I've gone to, like, okay, I'll come. I'm not married, but I'll be there. The wife, usually a spouse takes one, is a little more honest about the other one.
Okay.
But I found that people don't take tests well, and I believe that sometimes if I get to know you, let's say we're business acquaintances, or you're someone new that I'm trying to talk to, or just someone that I'm trying to relate to in my neighborhood, I can't say, hey, I'd like to get to know you better, but before I can communicate with you in your own language, would you mind taking a test for me? You can't do that. So tests are great to know who I am, but it doesn't really help what I do. And if I want to meet someone and communicate with them and connect with them, inspire them or encourage them, I've got to know who they are. So the reveals and tells of this by people's behavior, their tone of voice, what they choose to talk about, and their interest, those 4 things will tell me who someone is, and I can immediately connect with them because I know this is what they talk about, this is what the words they use, this is how they describe what they're doing, and immediately you can say, boom. And I'm not trying to label someone. I want people to be whoever they want to, and I'm not trying to put them in a box, but we are who we are. And I will allow anyone to be as great as they want to be or go as different directions as they want to be. But there are some reveals and tells that help me. If everything's based on a test, then if you say, hey, I'm an 8, I'm a 3, I've got to believe that. Even if you may not even act like that.
Right.
As soon as you turn around, everybody's like, she's not an 8. You know, whatever that is. So that's what has helped me to really define other ways of communicating. Communicating is great. If I moved to South America, I'd have to learn the language of whatever country I'm in. If I lived in the Philippines, I need to know that language. If I lived in an African village in a certain part, if I learned to go to another part of the United States, I have to learn their language. Same thing with people. I cannot communicate with you unless I know how you speak, not how I speak. So when I talk to Dr. Jeremiah, I go right to the end. I don't go through the process. I love the journey more than the destination. Trailblazers like the destination. Yeah. They don't want all the details. They just want to know that. So I start with Dr. Jeremiah. Like a Trailblazer, I start with the end and the impact, and they don't care about the details. A Navigator, what do they want? I start with the plan. They feel secure. Explorers, I just start with the vision, and they love the journey. They love the whole piece. And even when they get to the destination, it's not as interesting as the journey. They love getting there more than they do arriving. So with each person, I really discover new things about it, and to get an insight into another person's life, how they communicate, what they want, what they need, is really the purpose of that.
Now, Nico said that you are who you are. You are your adventure style at birth.
Right. I believe so.
Do you think that life circumstances can alter your adventure style and you can change because of certain things that happen?
Yes. I think if you're aware of it, you can make it, you could benefit from it.
Okay.
If you notice that a lot of people who go through really tough times, and that's why I think there's a lot of addiction and a lot of other things that are happening that are destructive behavior, people are born like, hey, I'm here, world, and this is who I am. And then because of a family situation or a tragedy or the way they're raised or whatever, you're going to either learn to fight more and be more assertive or disappear and say, I'm going to stifle and squelch everything that I really want to do because I don't want to be. Just like if you have a parent who's very volatile and very strong, if you're more of a low end, your goal every day is to wake up and just say, I want to stay out of the crosshairs, off the radar. So you tend to not get your needs met. You tend to not express yourself more. So I think that's how it hurts us. Some people fight through it, and from a bad situation, they make it good. I don't think it changes who we are, but it sure can alter us. And hopefully, if you understand why you do what you do and what you're doing, you can change that and say, okay, I realize now that I need to be this, or that's why that happened, or my parents didn't appreciate that, or this thing that happened to me, a personal tragedy, caused me to be this. I don't believe it can alter, hopefully make it, you can benefit from it. It just depends how you see it.
I love this conversation. It just sparks so many more questions that I have. It's such a complex, thing to look into and do research on, but going back to what you were talking about, how people don't take tests honestly about themselves.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, have you ever had, let's say a married couple, one take a test for the other person and then compare how they take a test for themselves? Because the wife might see the husband differently than the husband sees himself, right?
Right.
Have you ever done that or experimented with that?
Absolutely. I have. I've done that. And some are super aware. Some, they take the test for their spouse and their spouse I do that? Yes, you do that. And yeah. You do that, So it can be kind of interesting. Families are very interesting dynamic too. Yeah. Kids will take a test for their parents super well. The kids, I think parents sometimes don't think their kids know who they are because they're the parent, they dress up, they handle it. The kid's no, Dad, you are not organized. Yes, I am. Yeah, that's because that's your toy. That's not because kids know as well as parents. It is a good way. I usually try to have them do it themselves. Then sometimes in a marriage situation, I say, would you agree with that? And sometimes that's when all the fireworks start. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear how applicable it is in all different areas of life too. You said you spoke with customer service, call centers. You spoke with coaching staff, and that's so cool how to see how beneficial it can be in different areas.
Well, you watch quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're all they're all same life approach, right? They're all out playing a game. They're quarterbacks, pro team, all playing football, all have got a game, all have a team. Everything's the same. But why are they different? Because you have Brady who shows up, and the bigger the party, the better he does. Because he's that traveler, he loves it, he's fun, he doesn't get in his head. You have others that are more navigational, that are more like, have to have everything perfect. You have others explorers who I believe, I won't name names, but they go to the big playoff games and they go to the big Super Bowl game, and they struggle to win because their sensory overload is so great with all the excitement and the momentum and the motion of the event. I think they get in their head. So even though they're all quarterbacks and in a big game, they all approach the game differently. That's why it's not just about personality, it's about the approach of how they play that game. I'm sure for soccer it's the same way too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I wish I knew about adventure styles way earlier in life than just a couple of years ago, because it would have helped me understand things so much better and navigate my family a little bit better and different relationships I had, because it's always just been, a little more complicated than it could have been. But
well, here's the cool thing for both, since I know you guys, I see the benefit. I see how you both have benefited from your parents' adventure styles and how much more well-rounded you are because of their influence. Is all of our parents, do we love everything our parents do? No one does. There's not been a person on earth, maybe, Jesus. But everybody else is we don't 100% agree or always, but they do. If you have good parents, which both of you do, you can see how it benefited you in your life to make you more well-rounded. And that's the beauty of really putting all that together.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone, because I know people that are going to be watching this, I mean, even myself, when I, consider any personality thing, it's well, I'm a little bit of all of it. People are going to say that. I'm a little bit of a trailblazer. I have navigator tendencies. Sometimes I can be an explorer.
Sure.
What would you say to someone who responds in that way?
Absolutely. I think the important thing about adventure styles is it's not what you are sometimes. It's what you are most of the time. And most of the time, that's who we are. I like everyone to be, I would love for everyone to say, I have no idea what adventure style Grace Ann or Nico is. Because the more balanced we are, I love that. I love when someone finds out that someone's a trailblazer, but yet are super chill, super driven, but super inclusive. I love that. I love when I see explorer who's super navigational as well, or a navigator who's very explorer like you are. I love that. But that's what we work to be. That's the better version of ourselves. That's the more expressive version of who we are. So yes, hopefully I have learned, I am better, I think, because I work for a trailblazer. So I know someone, when I did this with another organization, they all said, are you a trailblazer to me? And I said, no, but thank you. I would love to be that. Sometimes I hate being an explorer. So I don't think we all are a bunch, some people call it a trailigator or an explorer. Yeah, explorer.
I like that.
Got it, whatever it is. I believe that we are who we are. And at times, yes, we can chill. Sometimes we can be more organized. Explorers are very organized when they have a dream. When they don't have a dream, they're not that organized. Same thing with trailblazers. When trailblazers have a goal, they can get super organized. Outside of that, I'll let someone else organize it. I just want to be there.
He organizes everything for passages.
There you go.
Well,
That works.
well,
Everything we do, there's a list. After every meeting that we have, he sends a list of what we talked about and then what we're going to do. But, we would be lost without him because nobody else in passages is
And that's the beauty of having you all work together is you make each other better.
Right.
And that's where it all comes together.
and I kind of wanted to talk about
Yeah.
that because, when you talk to one person, that's one thing, understanding how they speak.
Right.
But when, like yourself, when you're a COO in a leadership role where you're managing and leading hundreds of people, then how do you communicate with all the personalities at the same time, right? Some need a list.
Yep.
Some just want to know the destination. Some, want to know the meaning behind everything. And so you have to incorporate all of those into a document, into a meeting, into any conversation you have with a large group of people.
That's so important. since you brought up, like, if you have a big meeting, let's say we write an email, you got to write, if it's a group, you got to write to 4 people. In a meeting, I always try to have a little fun. And sometimes if it's a regular meeting, it's not as, but if it's a big meeting, always start with a little fun, food, some great time. Make it light, keep it, for my travelers. But I also usually have what in front of us?
An agenda.
An agenda for who?
The Navigator.
For navigators. I always have listed what I want. And we may have seen that agenda for the last 10 years, the same week, the same agenda, but they like that. I have an agenda for that. They want to know what the plan is. But I also understand that we need to get to a call to action for our Trailblazers who say, okay, I want the project, let's go, let's quit talking about it. But I also tend to be naturally philosophical because I want everybody to understand the why. So when you have a meeting, you have a little fun, you explain why we're here, what we're doing, and why this is important, here's a vision. Now, let's get to work, let's go through here, and now here's our action steps. That hits everybody in the meeting. If it's an email to everybody, first line is traveler. Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Happy Friday. We're almost got it. Just a couple more hours. We're out of here. Whatever. Hey, I want to talk to you about this. Next line, explorers. I want to talk to you about this. This is super important. Here's our goal for this. Is this what we want? I know as a team we can make this happen. Here's what we want to do. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. When we walk out of here today, let's get this done. Thank you. Everyone got addressed. Mm-hmm. If I don't do that, it's a bunch of either harsh to do or information without inspiration. So we have to be informative, but we also be inspirational in a group. Even a team going to Disneyland, right? Let's all go to Disneyland. Yay, let's all go. Navigator will immediately ask questions. What time, what day we're going? Are we going to carpool? Are we going to eat before we go? Are we going to eat when we get there? That's what they need to know.
I hate that about it.
That's okay. No, it's great. When you walk in the gate, the first thing you do is I need a map. Okay, and guys, if we start here and go around here, Trailblazers hey, let's quit talking. Let's get the fast pass. Let's go. Trailblazers, sometimes in the middle of the day, say, you guys are taking too long. He and I are going to go. We'll see you back at 6 o'clock, right?
Sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, you're slowing us down. And then your travelers having fun, taking pictures, thinking about people who aren't even with you, and won't they think this is cool? Let's take a picture. You can't go every 5 feet.
That's my mother.
Yeah, right. You don't want to go down Main Street. It's 4 hours. You haven't been down Main Street because you're trying on shirts.
We call her Google Maps because
Yes.
she takes pictures everywhere that we go and she documents everything.
And that's why she loves that. She loves to show that we're together. Explorers walking around down Main Street, Walt Disney, wow, he thought of this, I wonder if I believed on a star, I could have this one day. Everyone's there for the same goal, but we're approaching it different. So you, as a leader of a company or a day at Disneyland or whatever, a shoot, you've got to say, I got to value and honor everyone there and give them what they need to be successful. That's my job as a leader. To give everyone what they need in their language, the things that will make them successful. And if I do that, then I'm a better leader, or you're a better wife, better husband, better teacher, better friend. If we can just understand what that is and translate it for what they need.
Well, I truly believe that that's what sets you apart as a leader and what makes you so amazing. You have that awareness and you're able to communicate to everyone and inspire people, inform people. And I think that's really special about you. So I'm super thankful you took the time today to talk to us about Adventure Styles. I hope it's benefited anyone that's watched. And if you're interested, we're definitely going to make these downloads available. And you also have a website. Yeah, you can go to pauljoyner.com, and I'll put all that on that download too. Great. Yeah. Any last questions that you might have?
I did have one last question. How can we use Adventure Styles to tie into our faith and to help us grow spiritually and bring other people along with us? Absolutely. I think each adventure style connects to God a different way. Mm-hmm. It conflicts with God. So very quickly, an explorer connects through sensation and emotion. David in the Bible, right? Very much an explorer. Joseph, no matter where he went, whether it's the pit or the prison or the palace, he connected to people. And God used that. Talk about discovering our calling. God, who but Joseph, an explorer, could be whisked away, and even his brothers wanted to kill him, but they couldn't.
every place he went, there's a guy down in the prison, there's a guy down in the prison who can connect with you. God used him to save his people years later, connect with his people. So they connect to God through sensation or emotion. But that's why a lot of people are in music and theater and drama. They love that. But they also conflict with God, where the calling of God, they out-purpose God. They get distracted and they try to out-purpose God. This is not great enough. This is not big enough for what I want. And so a Trailblazer, they connect through projects, getting things done, making things happen. But they conflict with God when they try to outpower God. When God's not moving fast enough or not doing what they want to do, they try to outpower him. And then sometimes they make those mistakes. A Navigator, they connect to God through information. They're the ones that actually fill out the forms and actually do the study guides and fill out all the questions and don't just do the first one and not do the rest. They actually do. They're the ones at church that the pastor forgets to say a verse. They look around and like, did you get that verse? They want to have their notes complete. They also can conflict with God when they try to outplan God. They have a harder time living by faith because if it's not logical, if they can't see it on paper, how do I believe that God can do that? And a traveler, they're more interactive. They're the hosts at church. So they're people who like to welcome people. They love the social environment of church. But they conflict with God when life is not fun and there's nothing interesting, exciting. The mundane part of life is when they tend to fall because they want everything to be fun and interesting. If you have a traveler in your life, which some of you do, they always have to have something to look forward to. As soon as they have something to look forward to, they're fine. But sometimes God and his plan doesn't always tell us what's next. So in those times. So in our faith, I also realize the same relationship that I feel with people, I have to feel with God. For instance, sometimes if I feel disconnected with God, I'm in trouble. And it's usually because I'm distracted in saving the whales or saving the lions or saving people, right? And the same thing as Trailblazer. Sometimes if you feel disconnected from God, it may be you're trying to outpower him and he's saying, slow down a little bit. Maybe you should, or try to over-navigate. Mm-hmm. So I believe they really do. The Bible, we can talk about that another time. Their Bible is full of characters that we can go through, including the amazing story of Moses and Noah and different people who you think, oh, totally understand why God asked them to play that role, because it was exactly very obvious why David wasn't called to build the ark or why Noah was not called to go into battle. Mm-hmm. It's because God created them to do something that he knows they would be great at, they would succeed at, and they could get it. So another time maybe we can talk about that.
Well, that's so encouraging because he needs all of us. Right?
He needs all of us. There's not one better than the other. Mm-hmm. Some days you love your adventure style, some days you curse it. Just depends,
the day.
The day, right.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sitting down with us and taking the time to explain adventure styles. I learned a lot going over it again and was even, able to click some special moments where I know that I've struggled relating to people or anything like that. And I'm sure you were going over certain instances too. But I'm so excited to get this out and for our viewers to see it. And if you guys have any questions, Paul, can you tell them where they can find more about the adventure styles? Yeah,
you can go to, I'll give you some information you guys can download. I'll give you the 24 indications, and then I'll also give you like a narrative about each one, and you can download right here on Passages, and then you can go to pauljoyner.com, or you can come to San Diego and see me.
Even better.
Yeah.
If anyone is interested in contacting you, should they do it through pauljoyner.com?
Yes, or they can reach me at pjoyner@davidjeremiah.org.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you guys.